Hello everyone, welcome. Today I thought that we would talk a little bit about body hackles, and I don't know them all of course, but I know a few ways that you can put on the body hackles on. And the first way I'm going to do is one of my favorites way, and that is not to put on the body hackle, but it is to put a ringneck pheasant before you tie in the wings, because the dubbing will help to put the strands on the sides of the fly and they will vibrate. So let's start with the easiest one, because I'm not used to put on body hackles on most of my flies, but I will try to get it done today, at least so you understand the different ways. Here we just start with, this is the fly from the first tips and tricks, with the tail, where you taper the tail, and I have tied 4 of them, so we can work on the bodies and on the body hackle. First, tie in what I will use for ribbing, and that is SSS braid from Ferdinand flies, which I will spin. And I thought that I would make these flies yellow, brighter colors, easy for you to see, and I will bring them to Norway to fish them. So at the same time I'm trying to show you something, I tie flies for my first trip. So just tie in them both on your side and start with the color of the back body you want, and then I pull it down so I cover up where I've tied in everything before. So about to here. Attach it with a few turns, fold it over and attach it with a few more turns. That makes it sit really well. And now to the dubbing. Here I mixed my favorite dubbing for the banana flies, which is Alta Gold Glitz, Alta Gold regular dubbing, and mix in a few strands of hot magma yellow for the fluorescence. So we start to build a lump of dubbing. Want it, and I chose black thread now because black thread is easier for you to see than the olive thread. The best thing to do when you tie fly is get as close to the color of the fly you're going to tie with the color of the thread. This one is, I think it's easier to see in the video, and I think this will be enough. And then I hold back. Now I have quite far of the medium tubing here, because I will put on a hackle before I put on the wings. So now I just spin the sea lice silver ribbing. And you can start winding on directly like this, or if you want your tail to stand up more, you lift it up and put the thread underneath in the first turn to give it a little lift. I will do that on this fly. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. But the most important thing if you do is to adjust it so it sits in the middle. And then we wind on the ribbing with even turns. Pull it down quite hard into the dubbing, so hard that the fly turn, because we want to make a durable fly. And then I tie it in on my side. A few turns, go a little bit forward and wind it up, and fold it back and lock it in with a few more turns. That's the that's the body. And now, because I won't put on any body hackle on this one, I brush it directly when I'm done with putting it on to the way I want it. Push it down a little bit on sides. And then, as always, we check so they won't get tangled in the hook, so I always cut them off shorter than the hook. That would be about here when we have put it in the fly. And now I will take one of these Ringneck Pheasants. That will be the vibrating fibers that is alongside of the fly. And as I said before, this lump of dubbing will hold the strands out a little bit so they just don't lie next to the fly. Because we don't want that. We want the fly to vibrate and look alive. So we just lock that in as close to the dubbing as we can. And then a little hackle plier. And then we start to wind it on as close to the dubbing as we can. Pull it back, pretty close again. And I pull a little bit in it, not too hard because then the stem will break. And last turn. And then we lock it in. Out of the way. I lock it in on my side. 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the first way of doing it. This is the way that I do on 90% of my flies. So first of all, it's really easy, and second of all, I really like the Ringneck Pheasant rump feathers, because it will swim alongside like this, because the dubbing will hold it out. So now I grab hold of the dubbing, as you can see, they are not slimmed down towards the fly. They will swim like this and move alongside the body. So now I just go forward with this and I put on a little glue, and then we will do number 2. And I will continue with this fly when it's time to try a few ways to taper the wings and get the wings wide or slim, and maybe different colors, because it's not so easy to tie flies that you want different colors of the wings. And there is a few ways that I do it that maybe someone wants to know and can help them in their tying. I think that this body looks really nice with this hackle, and now afterwards I just put on a few wings, a few angel hairs, and then 1 or 2 front hackles. So this one is the first one. And now we put on the second one. And this is almost the same as the one before, but it is a little longer tail because this fly is going to be a little bigger one, bigger than that one. So I just tie on the thread here. And on this I thought that we would tie on the body hackle from behind, which is one way to do it. And as twice as long as the fly, as Michael say, that is a good rule of thumb. So I think that we are there. And then I put this on my side, tie it in thoroughly. And it's important that the strands of the feather wants to go this way and a little bit in, and those strands you want facing the fly. Otherwise it will be tied on and the strands wants to go forward, but that doesn't matter either. It will fish really good anyways, but I think that we will do it like this, and then we do like we did before. We start with a ribbing, sea lice silver. Tie that in on my side. And then the body braid, SSS braid in Alta Gold. And tie that in on my side too. Forward, and then we start to wind on the body braid, SSS braid here, and lift this up so you don't press it down so it gets non-symmetrical, because we want everything to be as symmetric as we can, because that would make the fly swim in the right keel and have the wing on top, not swim on the side or anything, which can happen. But when that happens on a fly that I still think look good, I twist the hook a little bit and hold it down, the fly down in the stream, and when it swims straight, I fish it with like that anyways. And a little more dubbing. That was a little too much. Take it away, and you use your thumb and index finger and spin it to the same way, pretty tight, because as I said before, we want everything to be tight. The tighter it is, the more durable it gets. And a little more, and then you can put in the first turn so it gets stuck, and then it's much easier to tie on the rest. And as always, I want it to be a little bit bigger in the front to get a nice drop form. Just hold it back and a few turns in front, and now we will try to wind on this body hackle. And now I have to think, because I want to cross wire this do it the opposite way of the body feather. So what I do then is I pretend that I put on the body hackle and I do it this way. So now I do it the other way, and I pull the strands a little bit like this, so I get them a little better on one side. So let's start with the first turn. A little more, so I get 2 turns down on the braid, and this is a braid, and then I go up on the dubbing. And now I want 1 turn in front of all this. And I hope that I get enough to do that. And I pull a little bit in it. And that is okay. Once my finger a bit to get them out of the way, but we can tie them back. When we locked it in, just hold the strands back and lock them in. This. That is one way of doing it. The best way of a good way of doing it like this way is, if it breaks and doesn't go good, you can start with it from this way and go down. But this way it's easier, because now I can wind on the ribbing without destroying the body hackle or losing it when I'm holding it with my finger. And now I wind like this, which means that I have to wind this crosswise. And I spin the sea lice silver, and I try to, the other way of course, and I try to pinch down as few of the strands as possible of the body hackle. After this we can take the dubbing needle and take out a few of those I lock down if we want to or need to. Like this, and here I put it down quite hard into the dubbing, which makes it a little more durable. And then I lock it in on the opposite side of me. Which doesn't matter, because the only thing we don't want to do is attach it on top, where we're going to have the wings, and then fold it back, lock it in with a few more turns. Here we have on the top we will have the wings and the angel hair, and then 1 or 2 hackles in front. And now this one is also done with the body hackle. There's a few pinched down underneath, so I will take my hackle plier, just put it under the strands and pull them up. So we get a little more strands, and then when we brush it they usually come out by themselves. So now we brush out the dubbing that we have underneath the body hackle. Like this, so it mixes well. Then I brush it down on both sides. And here is way number 2, which will be very translucent and nice, so that's that one. Now we put a little glue on this, and then we go directly on the number 3 way of doing it. So put a little glue on, just so we can cut it off and put it away until it's time for the wings. And I do this a bit away from where I'll tie in the wings, because I want it to be soft when I tie in the wings. I don't want it to be super hard where the glue is. So this is way number 2. I think it looks quite good. Mixes well with beautiful dubbing. So we'll put that on one there as well. And now we will take another one that looks exactly the same. Put this one on. And again, check so that's in the middle on top. And then we tie on the ribbing again. The SSS Sea Lice Silver. I think that we will start with the tying thread. It makes it a lot easier, so let's do that. Like this. I'm tying in the ribbing on my side. And then the Alta Gold braid. And tie that in on my side as well. Start to wind the Alta Gold body on and make sure that we cover up the thread here every time. Put it on. Tight turns. That's why in the first tips and tricks film, cut off the floor fiber here, because I want this to be the same thickness all of the way. If you tie in your fluorofiber just here or fold it over, there's gonna be a little lump here. Doesn't matter, but I don't like the way it looks. That's why I do like this instead. Like this. Put this one in too. And fold it back. A few more turns. And then we go on to the dubbing. That's a little much too. So just let's start with this, and remember to press your fingers hard together, and then tie the first turn a little bit above and behind the thread that you tied in your body braid with, the SSS braid, because we don't want any thread to be seen anywhere on the fly, just the materials that you tie on. Here I can lock it in with a turn, and then it's much easier for me to dub the rest. And we try to make it a little bigger in the front. Like this. Then hold the fibers back. Just a few more turns to hold it where you want it to be. And now let's see if I only have the big body hackles, and they are rooster, and these are, I never recall what they're called, the ones with the black in the middle, because the more expensive they are, the better tapered they are. The cheaper they are, the less tapered they are. So mine are not so tapered, but it doesn't matter. And this one I'm going to wind on from the forward to the back. So this is the third way, and these stems are pretty thick, so you make quite a few turns here, and I go down a bit. I go a bit forward because that makes it easier to tie in the wings later on, and also to put the jungle cock in the right position. And this one is more than twice the length, so it should be enough. So I get the hackle plier again and lock it in the back here. And this one I start from underneath, and first turn in the front, just like the master salmon angler Michael Fredin, and then just work your way back with even turns. Then I pull it down a little bit in the dubbing, and you know why? Because durability is a very good thing to have on your flies, because you want to be able to fish them a lot. And now I have wound it on with as even turns as I could, and because the new Fredin Flies hackle plier is so heavy, I don't have to hold it, which is a huge benefit for me, because when I tried this before, it was quite hard. So this has made it a lot easier for me to put on body hackles. So here we wind this on crosswise too, and try to pinch down as few as possible and make the turns even. Now I can take this away. And then when you come to the dubbing, we do as we always do. We pull it down a bit into the dubbing. And then I lock it in on my side. And hold back the fibers. 2, 3, 4, 5. I go a little bit forward, and then I wind this up and then fold it back again, and then I make a few more turns so it sits very good. Cut it off, and then you cut off the tip, and I have made the mistake to cut off this tip too short many times, so now I leave about 3 millimeters That makes it sit much better. And then we look, so well, that's on top. And now it's time to brush out this dubbing. And this way of doing it is almost it's the way that looks the best when you're done, I think, because this feels like the real way to do it. That's one good way of putting it down into the dubbing, is that when you brush it really hard, you don't reach the braid. You just brush out the dubbing to get this nice glow from the dubbing. And then I brush it on a little bit on the sides. And then we lock in this one with glue to save it for when we're gonna taper wings and tie a few different colored wings. And I also do this a little bit in front of where I will tie in the wings, because as I said before, I don't want it to be hardened. That makes it a lot more difficult to get the wings to sit really good on the fly. So it looks like this. And these will vibrate and swim very nice with the glittery dubbing. And when you tie on the wings, then it's pretty important that you get the first wing wide and on top, so the tail gets in the middle, because both the wing and the tail will help this fly to swim straight. So that's pretty important. So that's 3 ways. Alright, and now we have a 4th way. And I have a 4th way. I don't have so many ways. But we have one with the hackle in front and 2 with the bottle hackle. One where we tie it from behind, one where we tie it from the forward and back, and one where I put the Ringneck Pheasant in front, because that will vibrate alongside the fly as well. So this is a 4th way, which I usually do when I have these big feathers that are not, the tapering of them is not of my liking, what I want on my body hackle flies. So this is the 4th way, and we will put on the ribbing. My side as always, down to where we tied in the little tail and the body out the gold again. And here we start with the body, cover up the thread, and we tie this in. And you can check underneath, so you cover up where you tied in the mirage tinsel as well, because we don't want any thread to be seen. Oh no! Start over. That in like this, fold it over, and a few more turns, and then we attach the body hackle feather before we tie in the dubbing. So now I tie in the body hackle feather where I will start my dubbing on my side, and as we did before, we want the feather to be curved towards the fly and the strands to be bent towards the fly, so we get the right look when we're done. So now I just start to put on the dubbing, hold this away, and start with tied in the body hackle, this, and then we go forward, and we don't want to tie down the strands of the body hackle into the dubbing, because we want them to be free so we can use them in the right way. And again, a little thicker in the front. A few turns. And now I will take my hackle plier again. And I will start to wind this on. I can hold back the strands. And then I wind with even turns. Pull it down a little bit into the dubbing. And then we finish off with one whole turn in the front. I don't know if that looks pretty good. It's okay for me. And then now I have made a full turn plus a little extra in the front, and we just lock that in like so. Hold back the strands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is how I do it when the strands are too long. So now the strands, I think that they aren't too long, of course, because I started the strands here. So I think this looks really good. Instead of taking a whole feather and tie it all the way down here, the strands would be down here somewhere. So if you have oversized body hackles, you can start them from the dubbing instead, so they only reach to here, which I think looks a lot better, and I know that this will move really well in the water. So now I take these and try to straighten them a little bit, because it's easier for me to work my way through with the ribbing. I spin the ribbing, and then I try to make my brain work, so we cross wire this, and that I have to do it this way, and try to pinch down as few of the body hackles strands as you can, so just move them out of the way. This, and then we can put a few of them out with a dubbing needle if we think that we lock down too many, like this. And now I lock it in on my opposite side, and hold back the strands and make a few more turns. Go a little bit forward, because if we get this part here flat, it's easier to tie in the wings, and it's easier to tie in the jungle cock later on. And then we fold it back and tie it in. Now it sits really well. And cut that off. And then we brush the strands out. And I look, and I think that it's pretty evenly tied. And then just mix the body hackle strands with the dubbing. And then we brush it down on the sides a little bit. Let's see how this looks. I think it looks really good. A lot of strands, but these flies are quite big. I don't use body hackles on my small flies. Some body hackles on my small flies, but those body hackles are, I'm gonna show you the size of them. They are this size, so they don't look like this. This is about 5 or 6 times bigger than the small ones. So this is done, and then I take the glue and lock in the thread so we can do it with and talk about the wings next time, and tie them in a few different ways. And here I try to tie this in the tip of the medium tubing so it doesn't get too hard here when I'm tying in the wings. And there we are. This is a good way if you only have a bad and ugly long body hackle feathers. I think this turns out the best. And here we have one of the other ones. I can do it like this. Put in the medium tubing and the extra small tubing in the medium tubing. So you can see all 4. They look quite similar, but they are tied in different ways. The one that you can see most different is the one where we tied on the Ringneck Pheasant. But they will vibrate alongside the fly, and I can't tell which one I started from the back, went to the front, or from the front to the back. And it's one of these in the middle here. And the one that we tied, the last one we tied, where we started the body hackle, where the dubbing started. And that is a pretty easy way too. And here they are. 4 ways of doing it, and the 2 I use the most is the one where I start the body hackle where the dubbing starts and tie on a Ringneck Pheasant feather. These 2 I make when I make big fata corvas and sierra corvas and those beautiful flies. Not so often. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that someone learned something, because when I started tying flies I couldn't even get the dubbing on the fly. I didn't know what I was doing. So this is mostly for beginners. And I hope someone learned something. At least I learned something because I don't do this so often. But if you want to subscribe to my channel, just click the picture of me here holding a fish, and if you want to see another film, just click this picture here, and I will see you soon again with the tying of the wings, wide and tapering and stuff. Thank you very much. I will see you later. Bye bye.